Good morning, everyone. This is Professor Parker, and I decided to go ahead and give you a preliminary video, just kind of introducing myself and the course a little bit. So, just going to be spontaneous and just a couple minutes long. This is my Producer's mug, by the way. The Producers is one of my favorite movies of all time. And let's go ahead and just give you a tour of the place. Let's see. This is my workspace, right, over here. It's hard to really do this. Let me just flip it around for a second. Okay, that's my computer. And there's one of my favorite books of all time, Moby Dick. And there's a PS Vita there, a PlayStation controller. That's a movie cell from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And I try to keep my workstation clean, but there's a PlayStation 4 there. But I also like that, I enjoy just remember, what I really like about life, Video games, movies, books, etc. And teaching. I love teaching. I've been teaching for about 10 years now. And I just love interacting with students. I love helping you guys, answering your questions. I teach English. So that means I teach composition classes, but I also teach literature classes and stuff like that too. Fun stuff. This semester we're going to be looking at Composition English 130, which is our first composition class at SNHU, which means we're going to be learning some of the basics, We're going to take a look at a text, and by text I mean a written artifact, and we're going to analyze that artifact. We're going to pick it apart and see what it does and how it functions. And the trick is, we're only going to look at one thing this semester. You get to choose, though. You get a choice of 3 artifacts. So, let's just jump right in. Let's look at the lessons for the semester. Let me go ahead and point you at. Okay. So, this is where you start with Module 1, right? And you read all that stuff. And when you get through your reading, you want to go first to the tab that says, let me see if I can do this at the same time. The tab that says Resources Using Critical Reading Strategies. Now I already have that open over here, so let's go ahead and click on it. Ta-da! You want to read this whole thing, but notice when you get down here, it gives you a chance to select one of 3 articles. This one's called Beat the Clock, Time Management, etc. Training, blah, 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 etc. It's a very long title, but that is the whole title. Then one's called simply Take a Break, exclamation. And the third one is called The Era of the Happy Tech Workers is Over. So what we'll do is require that you, say, click on one of these. Let's open it in another tab here. And ta-da, you can have it. Read it from here, or I believe you can print it here too. Let's see. Download, print. So you can get a paper copy and read that if you like paper. Or turn it into a PDF. So this is what you're going to do. Go here and you pick from week 1 one of these 3 articles, okay? And you don't switch the articles in the middle of class. You start with that article and you stay with it. Okay, let's go back to the home page. You're going to have a discussion, of course, and that's pretty straightforward. So I want you to introduce yourself and talk about, let's see, various things that have to do with your reading experiences. Introduce yourself to the class, it says right here. Share some of your personal reading experiences. We just kind of want to know where you're coming from, what you've read, some of those positive or possibly negative experiences you've had. I like to know about people's books, obviously, Moby Dick is one of my favorite. I like 1984 and Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. These are great books. If you notice, a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy t-shirt, which is probably reverse on your end. Another one of my favorite books. So do your introduction, of course. And then when you're done doing that, we have an assignment right here, reading response, interviewing the text. You want to open that. I already have it open right here. And when you get there, you'll have another page that you have to click on and go to Guidelines in the rubric. So let's go ahead and click on that. That will actually take you to assignment, I think it's called 1-2, Reading Response Guidelines. a reading response. So, you want to start with the template. Okay, let's open that in a quick link over here. Now, when I open it, it opens it in Word for me automatically, and ta-da, it appears on my other screen because I've got a 2-screen system, which is pretty nifty. And it has, let's enable editing. You're going to want to use Word, and if not, you're going to want to at least turn this into a Google Doc, but you want to use this template. I believe you might be able to get Word through SNHU. I'm not sure. Please check on that because it's going to be very helpful in writing your papers. And all you have to do really with this one, we're just getting started by looking at the text. So you chose one of those 3 articles. So you start with the first one. It says, choose the text you will use for your project and explain why you chose that text. It says brackets, insert text. That's where you write. Now you want to remove the brackets and put your information there, but go ahead and keep the prompt, right? Choose the text and explain why you chose that text. So for this part, you tell us which text you chose, gave us a title, right? It's critically tell us which text, which article you chose, and the author name. And then tell us, after you read it, why you thought it was interesting enough to choose to analyze, and why you're choosing this to analyze for the rest of the semester, because this is the only article you're going to be looking at as far as analysis purposes for the rest of the semester, okay? And then the rest is identifying aspects of that text. For instance, part 1, what is the topic of the text? If you read that, what is it about, essentially, What is it dealing with? What issues is it dealing with? What's the topic? So where it says insert text, you write your answer and you remove the brackets and remove the part that says insert text, obviously. Then it says identify the genre of the text. Well, in the module 1, they'll talk about genre and different types of genre. Genre is a French word for, it means essentially type or class. What class of text does this belong to? What is the text trying to do, essentially? It could be of the self-help genre. It could be of the informational genre. The genre we're working with in this class is analysis, right? And so tell us, after reading the chapters on genre in Module 1, tell us which genre you think this article belongs to. Thirdly, you describe the writer's purpose, right, which is kind of connected to genre. What is the writer trying to do? What does the writer want you to know? What does the writer want you to take away from this article after reading it? Every writer has a purpose, even if it's not terribly obvious at first. When you look at it carefully, you'll see, oh, this is what they want me to think or feel after reading this text, or do. Sometimes they exhort you to do something. So what is it they want you to do after reading the article? What's the purpose? Finally, we have historical context and very similarly cultural context. This is a little trickier. You're going to have to get into the module and read about historical context and cultural context to really answer this one. But I'll give you a hint. You understand the historical context by looking at the publication details. When and where was it published? The date of time that it was published in. That will tell you a lot about historically what was going on at that time, and that can kind of give you an idea of how to answer this question. We're going to look at the exemplar, which is their way of saying the example that they give us, in just a moment. But definitely read the module and learn more about historical context. Likewise, cultural context. What environment was this embedded in? Like, what audience was really intended for this article, Some of these are kind of business-oriented articles, and some of these are kind of self-help for, for senior citizens and caretakers. That kind of cultural context tells you about the relevance of the article as intended for the intended audience. So there's always a culture surrounding something, and that will tell you more about the text, the article. We keep saying text, that just means the written artifact. Finally, core idea. What is the core idea of the text? Next to finally, the core idea as you understand it that it's trying to express. And then identify details of the text that are relevant to the core idea. That means actually look at maybe parts of the text, maybe quote parts of the text, tell us some of the bits of evidence and proof that the article uses to make its point and its main ideas come through. Those are details. Now, this is a long video. This is getting longer than I thought it would be. Let's see. Let's go back here. Sorry about the shaky cam. And go to module response exemplar. Now, the example uses another text entirely, not one of the ones you can choose, so it's off the menu, but it uses a different article that's kind of similar as an example, and then it breaks it down to show you how this is done. So let's go ahead and click on that. Alright. On my computer, it starts to download it immediately, and then I'm going to go over here, and it opens another Word document for the example. So it goes down the line, it talks about genre. Let's see if we can get that bigger. Here it says the text is What Everyone Needs to Know to Be More Productive by Dana Roosmanier. And they talk about why they thought that would be a good text to choose. Let me see if I can go vertical. I'll make it easier. They talk about genre and describe the genre as persuasive and informative, an article that evaluates information about productivity and so on. So that's a pretty good answer. Historical context, it says this article was written in the early 21st century, a time when workers in the West felt they were competing with AI technologies and each other. So that's an interesting answer. Go ahead and read that example in full. Cultural context, it says this article is written within the context of business culture and productivity culture. And it gives an interesting and full answer there, which I kind of expect you to give us too. About 2, maybe 3 sentences for each one of these, especially the bigger ones. Core idea. The core idea of this text is being productive is important, but equally important is creating a balance between productivity and regular life to remain fresh and energetic for both. Okay, so some of these have maybe 1 sentence answers. Some of the more complicated ones, like historical and cultural context, have maybe 2 or 3. And then identify details of the text that are relevant. This is probably the longest one because they want to point to 2 or 3 parts of the article. So here, the answer is, at the start of the article, Roosmanier, 2015, supports the idea that productivity is important. We all benefit from learning. See, they're actually quoting the text already, which is a good start towards analysis. We can all benefit from learning to ramp up our own personal productivity. Then it says in another sentence, later in the article, the need for balance and non-productive time is emphasized. And then it goes colon and gives us a quote, you can often get more done by focusing less on work and committing to less. So by all means, take a break, regroup, and come back with renewed energy and focus. And yeah, I think that's it. So that gives us 2 details and actually zeroes in on the article that it's analyzing by giving us quotes. So let's see. I really hope that helps. And if you have any more questions, of course, ask me. My email is j.parker7@snhu.edu, and I'm always happy to help. And indeed, I answer within 24 hours, Monday through Sunday, really. I check my email every day just to make sure you guys are doing okay. And since you do work on Sundays, a lot of you turn your assignments in on that day. Well, I also check my email on Saturdays and Sundays, too. Anyway, it's great talking to you. Sorry about this super long email, but I really hope it was helpful. And get in contact with me if you have any further questions. Okay, bye.